So I'm feeling really scared that I'm not gonna have those emotions when I read, and everybody's gonna find me out as a fraud. But I think I'm gonna try to read anyway. So here I go. Try to put this on a platform before I. Good enough. Good enough. Okay. Phoebe and Pax. This is from the book Extraordinary Dogs that I told you about. The old adage that opposites attract is even true in the comfort dog world. Meet Lutheran Church Charities canine comfort dog Phoebe, a golden retriever from Fort Worth, Texas, whose Lutheran Church Charities top dog handler, Janice Murrow, described as having a quiet approach to life that makes her ideal to serve as a comfort to those who are hurting, ill, scared, or in pain. She'll calmly rest her head on a person's knee or hospital bed when she's told to visit. And now meet Lutheran Church Charities canine comfort dog Pax, a golden retriever from Willow Park, Texas, whose Lutheran Church Charities top dog handler, Rhonda Hampton, says is Phoebe's polar opposite. He has an almost extroverted personality by comparison. You can tell he doesn't want to miss out on anything. If there's the sound of a party, he wants to be right there. Joking aside, these furry pals serve as perfect complements to one another. And here's a picture of them. Of Phoebe and Pax. And I think this is chapter 10. So, okay. Joking aside, these furry pals serve as perfect complements to one another, with her official name being Phoebe Matthew 1129. Phoebe's biblical namesake was best known for her kindness, and Pax, whose official name is Pax John 14:27 in Latin, translates to peace. Both are dual-vested, serving as Lutheran Church Charities canine comfort dogs when they're with Janice and Rhonda or the other civilian Lutheran Church Charity handlers on their team. And as Lutheran Church Charities canine military ministry dogs when serving alongside a veteran who is a Lutheran Church Charity handler. In addition, Janice and Rhonda, so I don't know what a military. Oh, these are the dogs that help veterans with PTSD, I think. Which would make sense because you need a more outgoing one to bring out the kind of depressed veterans that would normally be social, and you need a more calm one for people having anxiety. Yeah, I think that's what they do. In addition, Janice and Rhonda believe these two are a match made in heaven because Goldens in general are known for being gentle giants. They're a patient breed that is especially good with young children. Probing hands and fingers aren't a problem for them. So when it comes to comfort work, this pair is a bona fide win-win. Phoebe and Pax have become an ultimate comfort dog duo. They hail from two worship locations that are both part of St. Paul Lutheran Church headquartered in Fort Worth, Texas. Along with their handlers, this canine team has become a force to be reckoned with when it comes to spreading love and cheer wherever they go. This has been a true team effort that begins at the top. To both Rhonda and me, being a top dog is a job that we take very seriously, Janice says. The way we structured the ministry from the beginning meant the job encompassed all things Phoebe and now all things Pax. It's a full-time job that includes team management for up to 50 people who serve in various roles. In addition, we take care of the social media presence, scheduling, and interfacing in the community to add new locations to our schedule. Rhonda, who like Janice, was initially surprised by watching the Lutheran Church Charity Comfort Dogs who visited Newtown, Connecticut after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting on December 14, 2012, says, "To do one-on-one ministry with a dog sounded almost too good to be true. Once I saw the ministry working, I realized it was more than I had imagined. Unlike us, dogs don't see differences in people. They love unconditionally. They're ready to load up and go wherever we're called to serve. In all honesty, I'm not an animal person," Janice confesses with a laugh. But following the coverage of the Lutheran Church Charities Canine Comfort Dogs at Sandy Hook, I guess you could say the stars aligned in terms of information and people contacting a young pastor at St. Paul about the possibility of us having a comfort dog here. At first, I was going to do the administrative end of our Lutheran Church Charities Comfort Dog Ministry. My family never had an animal living in our home before. But after watching the training and going on a few visits, after watching the training and going on a few visits to get the team of handlers up and running, I realized there was something of great value of which I wanted to be a greater part. To watch the effect these dogs have on people who are in pain, whose blood pressure is high, who seem hopeless from loss, who are grieving, and to see how the mere presence of a dog can change their hurt and loss because Jesus comes into the scene through prayer. That's life-changing on both sides of the leash. We say the dogs have done their job. Not you, Siri. We say the dogs have done their job if we leave a person with a smile. A frown becomes a smile. A heartache turns into a smile. These dogs are a true bridge to Christ. Rhonda concurs wholeheartedly. It's about sharing Jesus with those we don't know and may never meet again, she says. But the seed is planted, and we leave it to the Holy Spirit to cultivate it further. The pilgrimage upon which Phoebe and Pax, along with Janice, Rhonda, and their larger congregational team have embarked, led them nearly 300 miles south of their hometown to aid another worship community in rural Sutherland Springs, population about 600 in 2017. During the November 5th Sunday service at First Baptist Church, a gunman entered their church and opened fire, killing 26 parishioners and injuring 20 others. Sutherland Springs is a tight-knit community that was rapidly plunged into a world of hurt, Janice recalls. The town itself is very small, and the number of media trucks and tents, I believe. outnumbered the number of homes in the immediate town. I was very impressed by the number of law enforcement agencies that were represented. I guess I figured in a small town there would be fewer agencies involved, but that wasn't the case. And they did a brilliant job of protecting the townspeople from prying eyes. We spent most of our time with the first responders and law enforcement officers. They explained to us the process of cleaning up a crime scene so those who wanted to return for closure could do so without fear. They explained to us the process. They explained to us the process of cleaning up a crime scene. So those who wanted to return for closure could do so without fear. They also explained the process of cleaning up personal belongings and boxing them so families could claim some or all of the belongings if they wanted to. We met a fire chief who asked if we would go visit one of his crew. We told him yes and asked him where he wanted us to go. He explained how to get to a coffee shop and who to ask for. We went with 6 dogs. I went inside and asked if they had a firefighter who worked there. The cashier answered yes. I told her the chief sent us to say hello, and I had a few friends with me. A young woman, maybe in her early 20s, came out from the back, and when she saw the dogs, she hardly knew what to do. I'm back. We moved away from the register to a more... Okay, so I already read about the woman in her 20s. We moved away from the register to a more private area where dogs could surround her and we could pray with her. We asked if we could stay for lunch with the dogs, and they gave us a small private room. Soon our new young firefighter friend was back at our table and told us she was on break. This time we got the dogs down on the floor with her, and the picture taking began. She couldn't get enough of them, and they couldn't get enough of her. That night we went to a prayer vigil at an area high school. We went early so we could greet the crowd as they arrived. A woman walked up to us and asked who was in charge, located the CEO of Lutheran Church Charities, Tim Hetzner, and had no idea what she wanted with him. Okay, I'm going to read 2 more pages and then I'm going to stop. She began to cry as she thanked us for giving her daughter a reason to smile. Her daughter was the young firefighter we had met earlier in the day. Their mother was so appreciative of us finding her daughter and spending time with her. She hugged us and loved on our dogs. We also met a woman with the Austin Police Department who had since further reached out to us and even came to a regional meeting in Austin to talk about self-care following a deployment. she started the presentation by describing what it was like being inside of the church after the shooting and working with family members and feeling a sense of needing to get outside and just breathe some fresh air. She went on to say that as she stepped out of the church and looked up at the trees and across the church lawn, she spotted us heading her way with beautiful golden retrievers. She explained how she had smiled and walked toward us. As this encounter with the young firefighter and others demonstrates, Phoebe and Pax have proven to be especially compassionate when comforting the courageous first responders and other trained professionals whose job it is whose job it is to run toward a tragedy, not away from it, no matter how emotional or stressful the situation may be on them. Okay, I'm gonna pause. Okay, I'm back. So, okay. So I'm back. Okay, now I'm gonna try to remember what I read about. Okay. This particularly special gift that these two comfort dogs have for spreading warmth and inspiration was on full display during an unforgettable journey to Dallas. On July 7th, 2016, a shooter opened fire on a group of Dallas police officers, killing 5 and injuring 9. It was the deadliest attack on U.S. law enforcement since the terrorist attack on September 11th, 2001, soon after Phoebe and Pax were on their way. Two of our St. Paul Church members serve in the Dallas Police Department. Rhonda explains. When the shooting occurred, one of them, Debbie, who also happens to be a ministry assistant with our team, reached out to us. Upon accepting the invitation to be in Dallas, Debbie met us in the parking lot of her precinct in tears. She opened the door to her unit, and they all welcomed us with open arms. We spent a good portion of the morning with them, visiting with the police officers and praying with many of them, as they had suffered the loss of 3 fellow officers in the shooting. When we then left and were police escorted to the main police station, and Plano at another station, we spent a great deal of time with an officer who had lost his partner and another officer, retired military, who had no family living close by. Both of these officers were drawn to the dogs. Neither of them wanted to go home and be alone. I sat with the dogs and let them talk. They needed someone to talk to and for someone to listen. We were able to do that for them with our dogs. We also visited the memorials. One of which was located in front of the main Dallas Police Department headquarters. Then we met and prayed with family members of active duty police officers who expressed their fear of the same thing happening to their loved ones. While this Lutheran Church Charity Canine Comfort Dogs team is away from their home base in Fort Worth, they try to end each day by collectively talking through the day and sharing their feelings with one another. This is sometimes very difficult to do, as a lot depends on the circumstances of each deployment. After the visit at Sutherland Springs, I asked everyone to go to dinner. It was cold and wet and late, but I wanted us to process the day. I asked each person to share something from the day, but once something was shared by one person, I told them it couldn't be repeated. We then started going around the table. Of course, everyone wanted to share our firefighter story. But it was amazing how much more we learned from each other, as we had all heard and seen different things during the day, and now sharing with the caveat that it couldn't be a repeat, forced us to think back over the day more carefully and mindfully. When not traveling outside their home region, Phoebe Comfort Dog and Pax Comfort Dog keep very busy schedules all the same. They regularly visit 8 hospitals and 5 independent school districts that surround Fort Worth, as well as several nursing homes, rehab centers, cancer centers, and Alzheimer's facilities. They also visit a home for unwed mothers waiting for birth and adoption, a Ronald McDonald House, and the Salvation Army. Plus, they partner with the United Airlines at George Bush International Airport for the Fantasy Flight each December, and Burlington North Santa Fe Railway for the Make-A-Wish train. And for the Fantasy Flight each December, and Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway for the Make-A-Wish train every October in Fort Worth. Since Phoebe and Pax are also vested as Lutheran Church Charities Canine Military Ministry dogs, their work with the military takes them to Fort Hood and Central Texas Veterans Healthcare System facilities in Waco and Temple. For these visits, a veteran, who is also a Lutheran Church Charities handler, accompanies Phoebe and Pax, along with other dogs in the region. They visit these locations 3 times annually to spend with the soldier or veterans, listen to their stories, and pray with them. Our veteran visits are especially poignant. Janice, who often goes along, says, "For me, watching a veteran visit with a veteran is often a history lesson for me. I can follow some of the conversations, but find that afterward, But find that afterward, I get a real history lesson when our veteran handler explains all they were talking about. This includes major world events that I actually lived through. I then realize that during those historic times, I never fully comprehended what was actually taking place in the life of our military heroes. One time at the State Veteran Home, we visited a World War II veteran who was a delight. More and more handlers and dogs gravitated toward his room as we stayed in there for a while. He was presented with a quilt, which he appreciated. And then a handler asked if we could, I'm just going to reread that. More and more handlers and dogs gravitated toward his room, the World War II veteran, as we stayed in there for a while. He was presented with a quilt which he appreciated, and then a handler asked if we could pray with him. He was quick with his answer of, "Oh yes, if you let me sing to you when you're finished." After the prayer, this gentleman broke into a perfectly pitched rendition of Amazing Grace. There were no dry eyes left in that room when he finished. I cherished the video I made of this man singing. When we returned to the Veterans Center the following year, I had the video on my phone. We asked if he was still there. The nurse immediately recognized the veteran on the video and told us where to find him. He remembered the dogs and thanked us for seeking him a second time. Before we left, he sang for us again. Phoebe and Pax, along with Janice and Rhonda, have traveled countless miles together. This has given the two humans in this unique foursome a lot of time to mentally process the missions they've experienced and to consider what these two dogs mean to them. For starters, Phoebe and Pax have turned out to be the conduits to lessons and skills Janice and Rhonda never anticipated learning before becoming a part of Lutheran Church Charity's Canine Comfort Dogs family. I'm still not an animal person, Janice says with a laugh. People who hear me say this ask if that's still true, and it is, but I can't imagine doing cold call ministry without Phoebe. She breaks down any barriers with her quiet presence and totally takes the spotlight, which allows me to share Jesus in a quiet, non-threatening way. Talking to people, and especially before large groups, has never been something I sought to do. But now I have to ask for time constraints, so I'm sure I'm not to speak too long. Rhonda explains, I knew after my first appointment what I thought this ministry was about had been turned on its ear. It was an in-home hospice visit, We were there on the patient's rally day. This is a period of time when the patient appears to be getting better, when actually they are getting close to the time of their death. This was a term I wasn't familiar with at that time. Ministry has changed the direction of my life. I find that I've grown in areas dealing with social media perception and the sharing of our dogs. From Not you, Siri. The ministry has changed the direction of my life. I found that I've grown in areas dealing with social media perception and the sharing of our dogs. From photography to website development and many steps in between, I've acquired new life skills that I hadn't previously thought I would be doing. Speaking to individuals or before groups, I'm now never at a loss for words. Sharing about the ministry is a joy I welcome. From personal, spiritual standpoint, simple things for some people, like openly praying with strangers, were not a part of my wheelhouse. Now with the dogs, I don't even think about it. It just naturally happens. Of the many journeys they've traveled together, handlers and dogs in perfect union, Janice and Rhonda each eloquently sum up their work. The joy of us having 2 dogs is very much a team effort, Janice explains. Every day the places we visit and the people we meet are very humbling. People let us into our lives for the happy, joyous moments, as well as the personal and sad times. They trust us enough to know we'll handle their situations with mercy and grace. It's our honor to represent our churches and to share this Lutheran Church charity ministry freely in our community and beyond. Rhonda adds, "You'll never forget the stories, with many of them claiming pieces of your heart. Most of us exist in a bubble with people just like us. But this ministry puts you in places and situations that you never imagined entering. You rethink your politics, your beliefs, and your purpose here on this earth, all because of these dogs."